takes are everywhere, but they're often uninformed, and major news is biased. We've had enough of hot takes. We want informed takes. Join Kevin Briggins and Devin Smith as they have rational conversations about domestic politics, geopolitics, and military affairs. Things will get interesting as they bring in expert guests, even from across the aisle. Grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and hop into the chat. It's time for Informed Takes.
Hey, welcome, everybody. I'm Kevin Briggins, and he is Devin Smith, and this is Informed Takes. Man, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing well. I finally woke up after everything I ate for Thanksgiving. The itis finally wore off.
I think I'm still in my slumber a little bit. I'm still trying to wake up.
It's okay. We'll forgive you, man. We'll forgive you.
Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us tonight. Hey, like and subscribe if you haven't. Come in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. And we'll just kind of interact during the show, and we'll just join the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So man, how was your Thanksgiving? I know you went out with the parents. How was that?
Yeah, so we went back to my hometown and spent some time with my folks, and it was different. It was different because my sister and brother-in-law, my middle sister and brother-in-law, they are in France now. They live in France, so this was our first Thanksgiving really in a long time without them there. So it was different. We FaceTimed for an obscenely long amount of time, so we got to talk to them and all that. But we had a good time, ate some good food, and it you know what, it was good to unplug for a minute, because when you running a business, it's just always on your mind. And I would be lying if I said that I went and my business wasn't on my mind, but I got a chance to be out of it for a second and to get a big picture view and to think about what I really want to do going into the next year. I got some peace and quiet to think that I normally don't get. So
cool, good. Hey, this is what I should have asked you, because this
snap.
is how did the political conversations go?
Oh, you know what, man? I had resolved. Okay, I had resolved that if it came up, man, I wasn't going to debate. I wasn't going to try to score any points. I wasn't going to try to win anything. So stuff was brought up, but I did not. I didn't throw hands, man.
Man, you took the high ground. I'm proud of you.
Michelle told us, man. Michelle told us, when they go low, we go high. I think that's what Michelle told us to do. I don't know if she actually lived that out, but I definitely did that. I did not wear my unburdened hoodie.
I was gonna ask that.
I didn't want. I was gonna get kicked out the house if I did that. I wasn't about to start that fight. Did you wear yours?
I did not. I did not want to. I decided I wasn't gonna be petty and start, because the Weiss family was here, and I was like, I can't do that with the Weiss family. And so I like you. I also took the high road. I didn't bring anything up and didn't score any points. Didn't try to win anybody over. Just just let it ride.
Yep.
But I see we got DC, we got New York, we got Atlanta. Yeah, we got the East Coast is representing. That's all I can say.
Let's go, Mr. Logan. Thanks for being here. And then we got Kelty Kim. What's the first name there? The handle. We're gonna call it Kelty Kim.
Yeah,
from Albany.
Hey.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
we got DWC representing
in the building. Starting
ATL.
trouble already in the chat. I saw that.
Yeah, already came in class throwing hands. But that's we wouldn't expect anything less from DWC. That's what we need.
Absolutely. Well, we gotta get into this because I think people know what we're going to talk about in terms of our first topic. We got a lot of topics to talk about, but the first one we got to talk about this Hunter Biden situation.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm.
So over Thanksgiving, while we were all eating turkey and dressing, the news came out that President Joe Biden was going to pardon his son Hunter for all of his federal crimes, um, saving him from any prison time and any future crimes and past crimes he might have committed. I mean, this man got a blank slate of you are good. So, like I said, I wasn't expecting. Well, I take that back. I was expecting it, just not over Thanksgiving. But we knew before he left office he was going to do this. So what was your initial reaction when you heard the news?
So, man, okay. My thing was, I'm gonna be real. I was surprised because I made the mistake of believing Joe Biden.
Stop playing.
I made the mistake of believing Joe Biden, and here's why I made that mistake. Because we had him cold, right? We had Hunter cold, okay? Smoking crack on video, cold. In a robe, in his underwear. I think he was. Yeah, I think that's how we got him. Okay, I think that they said that. Did they not say? Now I could be wrong about this, but did they not say that they found some very questionable, even child-related material on the laptop?
I think there were some rumors that I don't know how official that was.
Okay. So the laptop, and the laptop story obviously got suppressed. And the other thing is that they had him cold on the drug charge, on the gun charge. They had him cold. I mean, he was charged, right? So they had him cold on that. I mean, all the text messages of the dirtiness that Hunter and Joe probably did together. So I'm thinking to myself, at the time, aside from that one, okay, because that one I think is important, and we'll get to that in a second. But the other three, you got to know it makes you look shady. It's not a good reflection on the party for you to pardon your son when he is blatantly criminal. Criminal. It's kind of a stain on the office. It's a stain on the Oval Office. And
you would think that hadn't been the response,
which has been nuts to me. It's been nuts. I will say, Adam Schiff thought it was bad. I commend Adam Schiff for being able to admit that. I commend Adam Schiff for being able to admit that was a bad move. It reflects poorly on the party. You had many Democrats, even a few media pundits, basically admit, like this is furthering the way that a lot of people feel that there's a two-tier justice system, and you just have to be famous enough to not get prosecuted for real crimes that any normal person would definitely be doing jail time for. I mean, that's the way it feels. So I was surprised because I think that it's going to affect the Democrats. I think it is. I think that it's going to further the public's distrust of them.
Yeah. And I'll say this for people who don't know. So Hunter Biden he pled guilty to, I believe it was 2 of the charges. And so he was kind of awaiting sentencing. Joe Biden has said all summer that he would not pardon Hunter Biden. He basically said, he was going to allow the justice system to do its thing. And he was not going to pardon his son. And the Democrats, and by the Democrats, I mean the media, used this as a contrast to talk about how virtuous and trustworthy Joe Biden was, how he was contrasted with Trump because Joe Biden believed in law and order and the system and the way things run. And it was just this, he was just lifted up as this hero for not even pardoning his son because he believes in the justice system. And we all knew it was BS. because we knew that man was not leaving office without pardoning his own son.
Except
It
for
just
me.
wasn't-
I'm the only one I didn't know. It was just me, guys. I guess I was,
I mean, because I'm gonna be honest, I would do the same thing. That's what I know DW was joking, but I don't think there's anybody who would, unless it was some type of heinous crime, right? I don't think anybody who had the power would not pardon their kid and take them home. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know anybody who would like. You know what? He did the crime. You gotta do the time. You know. I mean, that sounds good until the power's in your hands to free your child. And do you do it? I think we all do it. I would do it.
See, and that's I'm different there. I'm different there because if my son did all that stuff, I don't know. I don't
like
know
I say,
that I would do that.
White collar crimes, I'm pardoning that. Like I said, if it's something heinous, assault, murder, like no, I'm not gonna do that. You know. But if we talking about white collar, I have the power to do it, yeah, I'm gonna do it. But the problem is, don't virtue signal about not doing it and then reversing course and doing it and then making lame excuses to why all of a sudden you need to do it now. You know?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just go ahead and just go ahead and admit that you're hypocritical and that it was a lie of convenience before the election and it didn't work. And now that the election is over, your true colors come out of what you really want to do the whole time. He was going to do this the whole time. This had nothing to do with Trump getting elected. He was always going to pardon his kid before he left office. Or I say this, because even if Kamala had won, or if he had won re-election, he was going to do it after the election. You know, it was just the look of it. He didn't want to do it before the election. That's just a bad look. So you do it after the election because he can't run again. And then if you do it now, who's going to remember in 4 years? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I see that. I tell you, I have a theory. I have a theory about why he did it. Especially because so many Democrats acknowledge that this is a bad look on them. They it seems like, Adam Schiff and some other Democrats were not happy about it because they know that it's going to get used. It is going to affect them politically. I think that somebody got to him. I think somebody got to Biden. Potentially Hunter. I don't know. I'm typically not one to engage in theories like this. However, because it is on paper a bad chess move, especially when everybody knows that the dude is guilty. You said you weren't going to do it for so long. I think that they came to him, and maybe Hunter was like, "Hey, man, if I go down, you going down. If I go down, I'm going to talk. I'm going to talk. I'm going to sing. I'm going to write a book."
You sound like Jon Stewart. Did you see his take on it?
No, I didn't. I might have to try to find that
because it happened over Thanksgiving. And he had this reenactment where he was Hunter Biden at the dinner table. and he had his plate of food. He had his plate of food, and he took his pistol and put it on the table. And he was like, "If only someone could do something, you know."
That is amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm just gonna say, man. I'm gonna say, Hunter might have been like, "Hey, man, think this through. Think it through, man."
Oh yes, he was like, "Yeah, this might be our last Thanksgiving together. Wish somebody could do something about that."
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, I could see that conversation happening. And maybe I'm full of it. Maybe it literally is. Okay. Maybe it really just is. you know.
Because think about it internally. You think Joe was telling Hunter the whole time, "I'm not going to pardon you"? Do you think? I don't think so. I think Hunter knew. That's why he pled guilty, right?
Maybe so.
Yeah, I don't think he was having conversations behind the scenes with his dad saying he wasn't going to pardon him. I just can't see that.
Yeah, I do think that. I do think that maybe when I try to imagine what's going on over there in the White House, Hunter Biden, does a line of coke and then it's like, Dad, you really not going to pardon me? And it's like, of course I'm going to pardon you. Come on, man.
Yeah,
the old classic Joe Biden. Come on.
Yeah. Wait out the election.
Oh man, so Future says, honestly, the prosecution should have gone after more serious charges. They had the info if they wanted it. I don't blame Joe for pardoning him. He just should have said he would from the jump. I'm with you on that.
Exactly.
Except for and maybe I'm too much of a stickler, just because I'm thinking about what does that do. What does that do for people's faith in the justice system? What does it do to their faith in there being, the rule of law in this country? Because everybody always says, all right, if you're rich and or famous, you will not get tried the same way that a normal citizen, a normal average person is going to get tried. And I would be thinking that I would be letting that. I would be basically reinforcing that justice was different for people like me and my family if I was the president. I as a Christian, I think about that was the deal that I got. I was Hunter Biden in that picture, right? The Lord pardoned me on behalf of Christ, but somebody had to go down, and that's the difference there. Somebody had to go down. In this situation, nobody went down, man.
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's definitely a injustice. And it does, reinforce those beliefs about a two-tiered justice system and all of that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, if I'm Joe Biden, I do the same thing.
At least you're honest about it, right? You're honest about it.
I mean, I'm not sacrificing my kid on the principle of it. I'll let somebody else do that.
He's like, I'll let Devin do that.
Yeah, I got. Look, he had to go home and answer to Jill. You think he would go home and tell Jill that he wouldn't go pardon their son?
That's a good point. I do think probably Jill and Hunter were like, hey, you're gonna pardon this dude, right?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, honestly, that's one of the reasons Hunter could go and operate in the manner in which he was operating. Because he knew he basically had immunity. Anything that fell on him was gonna get wiped off eventually.
Man,
they knew that, and so nobody thought this stuff was serious. It was always gonna. This story was always gonna end like this. So
yeah. I mean, I think that I just want all the Democrats, okay, all the Democrats who said, "Oh, he's a paragon of fairness and justice and all that stuff." I want all them Democrats to either sit this one out, or if they went and they were some of the ones who then started rationalizing why he pardoned them, just can you just resign for me? Go ahead and resign, because y'all are ridiculous. And
yeah.
I don't want to hear another word. I don't want to hear another word from people about how corrupt Trump is. I don't want to hear another word, because nothing like that has ever stuck to him or anybody in his family.
But I'll say this though, this is another example of they are everything they claim Trump to be.
Right.
They really are. And that's where the hypocrisy keeps coming in, because they tried to make this contrast of Trump doesn't care about the rule of law, Joe Biden does. Well, it turns out no, Joe Biden doesn't either, right? Trump is going to use the justice system against his political opponents. Well, that's what they did against Trump. You know, Joe Biden, no, Trump's gonna use the justice system to, free his loyal people who are loyal to him and all this type of stuff. Well, that's what Joe Biden just did, right? They're the exact same thing they warned against, and that's where the hypocrisy comes in, and that's what the public's seeing, you know. But yeah, so Stephen A. Smith had some thoughts on this. Yeah, and I know you have not seen this, but I thought it was pretty good. We need to react to this Stephen A. Smith take on, Joe Biden pardoning Hunter Biden. So
let's take a look at that.
Yes, yeah, let's take a look at this, and then we can jump in at any time and discuss.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna start this over.
We're gonna get started in the nation's capital, where President Joe Biden reversed course when it comes to his son Hunter Biden. The president issued a full and unconditional pardon for Hunter, who faced sentencing this month for federal tax and gun convictions. The pardon means Hunter Biden won't be sentenced for his crimes, and it also eliminates any chance that he'll be sent to prison. In fact, the pardon explicitly grants clemency for the tax and gun offenses from his existing cases, plus any potential federal crimes that Hunter Biden may have committed dating as far back from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024.
What happened back in 2014? That's what I want to know. What happened back in 2014? Because he knows. They know.
Let's see. 2014, I know Putin invaded Crimea in Ukraine. And I know that's where Hunter Biden's dealings were in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what was going on there. Also, Putin also invaded Ukraine once Biden was in office again. So just throwing that out there.
Man.
Yeah. So what were you thinking with 2014?
No, that lines up. I actually wasn't thinking anything. I heard about the clemency going all the way back to 2014, and I was like, okay, all right, what all is wrapped up in that? And I do think that it has something to do with Burisma. I think it does. But the interesting thing here is that it doesn't cover Joe Biden himself. Now, I think it's going to be really hard for them to stick Joe with anything because there's nothing explicitly calling him out, though they did have bank records. And those bank records do not they don't look good for Joe.
Yeah,
but I don't think Trump goes for him.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those phone calls and recordings, whatever they had about Hunter going back and forth in his dealings in Ukraine back in the day when Joe was vice president, and he would say things like, "I have to talk to the big guy," so all of those recordings and stuff of his dealings in Ukraine that were real shady. I think that's the stuff that's going back to 2014.
Yeah, I think so. Future. She need to know about that drink, man. She need to know about what you're drinking on.
This is black spiced rum. It is the Kraken, if you're familiar with.
Oh yes. Oh, that's good stuff, man. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I am jealous.
Yeah. So, yeah, I had to upgrade. I couldn't come with the little weak lemonade no more because she would have had something to say, just like last time.
She hit you on that lemonade, man. She hit you,
did.
Man.
She did.
We appreciate
something a little
you remembering that. Yeah, that's good. See, I don't have anything. I don't have anything to drink tonight because I was thinking to myself, I'm trying to lift weights after the show, and I don't want to be slow. I really wanted to pour me some of that cognac, man. That's what I thought about it, and I was like, nah, man, it's gonna mess up my performance on the weight bench.
It is. But I see you, man. You trying to bulk up? I see you.
You know. Hey, Trump won, man. It's, being a man is back in style. It's trying to get big, man. All right, let's see what else old Steve had to say about this.
Which was just there you go. The time frame is specific because it covers Hunter's work overseas with Ukraine, China, and other foreign business dealings, okay? Here's a part of President Biden's statement in regards to the move. Quote, "Today, I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision making, and I kept my word, even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions, but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties, are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It is clear that Hunter was treated differently. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong. There has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober, even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. In trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough." End quote. Now, Biden's.
Okay, what are your thoughts on that, man? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, we were right in terms of his business dealings going back to 2014 in Ukraine and China and all of that stuff. That's what the shady stuff. Second, come on, man. It's just frustrating to understand the way they drummed up the charges against Trump to make them felony charges, right, in New York. And then to see Joe act as if that's what happened to Hunter. Like, this is your DOJ? Like, who is they? Who is going after Hunter because he's your son? This is your DOJ.
Man.
Make it make sense.
Well said. Well said. Oh my goodness. So it's Merrick Garland's fault, Joe? It's Merrick Garland's fault. Merrick.
I really want to know who is that? Who's going after Hunter because he's your son? It just makes no sense. The attorney general you appointed is going after Hunter. Who's going after Hunter because he's your son? Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. I'm with you on that. Very well said. Very well said.
His opponents, which include President-elect Donald Trump, have repeatedly said Hunter should be prosecuted for his activities in Ukraine and elsewhere. Respectfully, to the President of the United States, specifically as it pertains to that statement, you're full of it. I'm going to look right here over the national airwaves and look the President of the United States in the face and saying you're full of it. Not because you let your son off. Any decent father would do that. Never mind the business dealings that was going on in Ukraine and China and other places. While you were vice president under the Obama administration, I'm not talking about that. This is not a complaint about Hunter Biden getting off. I said weeks ago, you damn right you should let him off. He's your son. And he's a recovering addict. And he's battled those demons for years. And the fact that you let your son off, I totally understand. Donald Trump would have let his son off. Anybody would have. Or at least most people. I understand that. That's not the issue, sir. The issue, and why I say you're full of it, is because of the excuse you gave. A simple statement. That's my son. I have the power to pardon him, to grant him clemency, whatever. That's what I'm doing. Y'all kick rocks. That'd have been good enough for me. That's your son. That's your son. That's your flesh and blood. That's your child. And as you pointed out, he's battled a lot of demons. He's gone through a lot. I get it. But what's all of that other stuff you said about? You highlighting the transgressions and talking about how, oh my goodness, if it were anybody else, it would not have been considered or classified as a felony. If it was somebody else, they would have got off. Well, you ain't somebody else. You were the vice president. And obviously, considering the crimes that he was being accused of, I understand the gun charge, I understand tax charges, but the things that they were investigating in terms of his dealings with Ukraine, his dealings with China, and whatever purported money was funneled to the Biden family, considering all of those things, those are valid things that warrant an investigation. And again, if you don't want it investigated and you want to let him off, President Biden, no problem. Just say that. That's my son. That's my son. That ain't what you said. You tried to highlight how innocent he is. Damn near called him a paragon of virtue. But what did you do to Donald Trump? See, we want to sit up here and everybody was afraid to
Hands.
He bring hands. Dang. He is coming with hands.
I'm sorry. I stopped it right there. I had to say, I am watching this for the first time with the audience. Maybe y'all have seen this already. Man, Stephen A. Smith used to get on my nerves. Well, I'm liking Stephen A. Smith these days, man. I'm liking this guy, man.
Stephen A. frustrates me because he won't just go ahead and be a conservative and stick with it. He feels this need to like hold back and try to keep his black card and keep it and stay loyal to the Democrat side. Stephen A., like most black people, is a conservative. He's just afraid to just be one.
I think so. I think so. I think maybe there's some things that he disagrees with, but by and large, that guy's probably he's probably really a conservative. But you get blackballed.
Yes.
Get blackballed.
You know who he's friends with?
Industry.
Do you know who he's friends with on Fox News?
Oh,
Stephen
Hannity, right?
Yes, Stephen A. Smith and Sean Hannity are good friends. Stephen A. Smith is a conservative who's afraid to be one.
Oh, Future, you're right. He does need to watch his blood pressure. That dude gonna blow a gasket, man. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Hey, you hear what he said? He said any decent father would, and I'm like, not Devin.
Not Devin. I'm a trash father. I'm trash. Oh, I'm like, daggone, man. I was watching. I was thinking, like, man, am I a bad person? Because I'm over here thinking to myself, man, if I let my son off, that's I'm screwing over justice.
Oh,
and my son's probably gonna watch this one day, and it's like, you know what, Dad? Don't ever ask me for anything.
To the nursing home you go.
He's gonna play that video for me when I'm like, son, why you putting me in a nursing home? He's gonna bring up his because by then we probably gonna have holographic phones. He's gonna bring up the hologram, YouTube hologram. He'll be like, yeah, this why right here.
Hey, DWC, you did not have to go there. Look, put that comment up.
Oh, whoops! Hold on. Let me bring that up. Yeah,
there it is.
SAS is a conservative in drag. Oh, snap. Oh man, that is hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. That is hilarious. Okay, all right. Let's go back to this thing.
Yeah, let's
talk about it leading up to the election. Or even when we were willing to talk about it, we had to dance the dance. We had to go around, up the block, around the damn corner, come right back around and vaguely get into stuff. We had to point out the 34 felony convictions. We had to talk about the 2 impeachments. We had to talk about the abundance of allegations that took place, including an election fall and citing an insurrection and all of this other stuff. We had to talk about all of that. But conveniently, it was coming down the pike like a damn tsunami when you knew you were going to have to run against them. You didn't talk about this then. A matter of fact, you specifically said you wouldn't pardon your son. before the election. You're announcing it now that we know that Donald Trump is coming in and about to be sworn in as the 47th president. You were intending to do this all along, which again is no problem, but it doesn't make you any less full of it. Because when you look at Donald Trump and how the Democrats went after him, you do understand that the Democrats are no longer in a position to say anything, right? You can talk till the cows come home. You're whistling into the wind. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say right now. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your party. Because when you pardon your son, going back on your word, telling the American people there was no way that you were going to pardon him when everybody and their grandmama knew you were lying but didn't hold you accountable for it. And now you've confirmed what people believed, that you were probably going to be lying about that very thing that you said you wouldn't do for your son. All you had to do was say, he's my son. I can't let him go to jail. What's the matter with y'all? Do I got to act like Dana Carvey from Saturday Night Live? And another thing, and by the way, is that what I got to do? All you had to do was say, that's my son. I'm not sending him to jail. I have the power to pardon him and to bring him home with me when I walk away from the White House, ending my political career. I'm taking my son home with me. Everybody would understand that. That wasn't good enough for you. It wasn't good enough for you. Instead, you have to try to come across like he was victimized because of you, like you're so innocent, like you're such a paragon of virtue. And as a result, now you've brought more skepticism in the direction of the Democratic Party. Why? Because you show you're no different than the other side, which you were accusing of everything. Y'all went after Donald Trump for everything but tying his shoelaces on the right way.
Bars.
You raked him through the coals. You threw him under the bus. You did everything to him. And I'm in no way trying to act like he's some innocent bystander in all of this. But when the word hypocrisy comes up, there's no escaping it. There's no escaping it.
Bars.
He threw hands.
I mean, dude, that's Biden ain't stand a chance of dodging them hands. Dang, that dude came out. I thought DWC came out swinging, man. Stephen A. Smith got them. He got
That's
them
why
hands.
I was like, no, we got to play this tonight because Stephen A. came real. It shocked me. It really did. I didn't expect him to come that real.
I didn't expect that either. I mean, dude was saying some. I mean, dude was saying some stuff that I really didn't expect. I mean, the fact that he called out the Democrats on going after Trump, literally just to attack a political opponent, I didn't expect Stephen A. to go as hard in the paint as he did on that. I put respect on that, man. As Birdman would say, I put respect on his name.
Respect on his name. I put a little less on it though, because just like Biden and just like Charlemagne and all these other people, it's really convenient to do things after the election.
It's true.
Where was Stephen A. calling out these attacks against Trump and this miscarriage of justice against Trump before the election?
Good point.
That's what everybody has this epiphany now. We should have talked about what's his name from Young Turks? What's the co-host? What's Anna's co-host?
Oh, Cenk Uygur.
Cenk, yeah. Now he's had this epiphany that he said, now he's on the left, and he was like, he now feels more optimistic now than he did before the election. Now since Trump won, and he said it's because he realizes now that the establishment lost. It's like, Cenk, where you been the whole time, man? Now all of a sudden, you're optimistic. You're basically glad Trump won now. After all the demonizing of Trump, he's a dictator. Now all of a sudden you're feeling optimistic. Come on, it's really convenient after the election for people to switch up. That's all I can say.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's fair because he could have said all of that at any point over the last 2+ years. He could have said that.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I think that it's easier to do that once you see that public opinion has shifted. It's definitely easier to do that once public opinion has shifted. But I think that there's a realization, though. I think there was a realization as well that we got to stop. We got to stop this mess. I mean, it's time to stop playing patty cake. And yeah, I wish he said it beforehand, but I'll take it now. I'll take it now. My hope is that if it ever becomes out of style to throw them hands, that he still throws them hands.
Yeah. Hey, Captain Obvious. He said Skip Bayless didn't go after Shannon Sharp that hard.
Oh man,
that is true. That is true, man. Stephen A. came hard.
He came with the hands.
But I can't remember who I heard say this week. You know what? It was on the Megyn Kelly show. She had a guest on, and this guest said, I don't know who he was, but he said the Democrats are basically trying to use Trump as a justification for any wrong thing they want to do. It's like, oh, I mean, we have to do this thing because Donald Trump, right? And Donald Trump just becomes the excuse to do anything you want to do. Like, I have to pardon Hunter because Donald Trump's going to go after Hunter, right? You know, we have to keep him off the ballot because Donald Trump is just so bad and a threat to democracy. You're right. We have to drum up charges against him because I mean we can't let him get in office. He's a threat to democracy. Like, everything they do is just justified because Trump. And now they're doing the same thing because that one is a report out now tonight that Joe Biden is considering handing out pardons to other people to protect them from Donald Trump. Right. So Anthony Fauci, Liz Cheney, and there was someone else. Do you remember who the other person was? I can't remember. Anyway, it's a list of people that they're considering pardoning now
to
protect them from Donald Trump coming into office. You know, and it's like, stop using Donald Trump as this excuse to do what it is you want to do. You know, let's see.
Because I pulled it up just now.
Okay.
So Adam Schiff is the other one. Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, Anthony Fauci. That makes me think about, did Adam Schiff say what he said to get on Trump's good side, knowing that Trump's coming in?
Just like Joe Scarborough and them flew down to Mar-a-Lago. Everybody's kissing the ring. Everybody's trying to get on the good side now. Yep. It's just hilarious to watch. It really is. To see how people just kind of play the game. Hey, I wasn't gonna say anything, but yeah, what came to my mind was more Miami Vice, but same time frame, same era. But yeah, the collarless shirt with the sports jacket, yeah.
Man, that's hilarious.
Like Billy D. Williams, a Colt 45.
Colt 45. Yeah, I had to put me a hat on, man, because when you bald, when you don't get that shave, you know, you can't be showing the people that. I had to put the hat on. I was trying to look cool, man. Jay Witt gave me the Billy D. Williams. I'll take that. I'll take it.
1986. But yeah, so there's this trend And so it's one of those things of, I really don't believe those who are truly in power believe Donald Trump is a threat and all of this type. They don't really believe that. They're just using that fear mongering. They use it to try to get elected, to stay in power, and now they're using it to justify their actions after the election. Yeah, and so we will see, but like Stephen A. said, the word hypocrisy, they can't get away from it because it's truly just the definition of hypocrisy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so I also want to clarify that based on what we know right now, Biden himself hasn't said that he is considering pardoning those people. It's conversations that people in his cabinet are having. They're thinking about, do we need to get these people a pardon in case Trump goes after them? I'm trying to see who specifically it was who's having the conversation.
And what's sad,
who
some
was
of those
it?
people do. Like Anthony Fauci, I'm sorry. He intentionally lied to the American people about COVID. He really did.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was Biden's chief. It was Biden's White House counsel, Ed Siskel. He's the one who is floating the idea of pardoning those people because they think that Trump's going to go after him. Now, I do think there's a possibility Trump potentially goes after Fauci. I actually don't think he's super interested in that.
That's what I would say. I don't think so. It's just a waste of time.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to do it. I tell you who would get in his ear to try to get him to do it. Rand Paul. Rand Paul wants Anthony Fauci's head on a platter. And Rand Paul does have Trump's ear.
Yeah, but it's one of those things of, with all the objectives they're trying to achieve right now, where is that on the list? That's got to be so low on the list, right?
So low.
And so when you only have so much political, kind of power and bandwidth and goodwill, don't spend it on going after Fauci.
No.
So yeah, it's a lot of other things they want to do. A lot of federal agencies they want to tear down and reorganize, and all focus on that stuff. Focus on doing the campaign promises and not going after somebody like Fauci. So
yeah, as much as I would love to see Fauci have to deal with the lies he told, the bold-faced lies that he told to everybody, as much as I would like to see that, I think that the more important stuff is to focus on the campaign promises. Like you said, I want to see DOJ successful.
yes.
I want to see the Department of Government Efficiency do exactly what they've set out to do. If I get that, then I'm good. Now,
Yeah.
I think that if they want to run a little investigation, maybe write an expose book. One of the Congress people write an expose book and come with the receipts. Go, by all means, go ahead, please do. But let's not waste any congressional hearings on this. Let's not try to waste any investigation capital on that. That's not what we need.
Yeah.
I think it's weird. I don't think that Trump is going to go after Liz Cheney. I know that he would have strong, just given his personality. If there was something on Liz Cheney, it would be very tempting for him to go after Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
But I don't think he actually would. And what on earth would he have on her? He wouldn't have anything on her.
Yeah. I don't know what the Liz Cheney stuff would be. You see DWC in the chat?
Let's see. What we got here? Oh man, he got an idea. What's the idea, man? What we talk about here?
No, look at the last comment. The last comment.
I need XRP to hit $200.
Well, he put a lot of comments. He said send him a link.
All right.
I think he's trying to come on.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me see if I can work this up here. Let me see if I can work this up here. Let me see if I have my stuff set up right. But we're gonna get you in here.
We don't have our producer tonight. So Devin is producing the show as he's on it.
Yeah, I'm having producing and being on the show is not easy, folks. Let me tell you that. You almost have to be Spider-Man with the 8 mechanical arms on you. But I'm gonna shoot you this link, DWC. We're gonna try to get you in here. Don't come in here talking about no XRP, daggone. Don't come in here talking about no XRP scams, though.
If I get one more social media request from somebody with Bitcoin and all this stuff in their profile trying to sell me on stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean that right there is one of the things that I have I like. What is it? I get hit up on WhatsApp. I get hit up on Telegram. Yep. Telegram's the worst. I mean, Telegram's absolutely the worst about that. That's crypto city basically.
Yeah,
is Telegram. But yeah, I think that if we can get some Doge wins, all that stuff, we're gonna forget about Fauci. We're gonna forget about Liz Cheney. I mean, I don't know. Do you think maybe there's something that somebody knows? Maybe there's something that they know about how the J6 stuff was conducted. Maybe some of that stuff was unconstitutional.
That's what the Liz Cheney stuff would be. Yeah, there were some accusations about some of the J6 stuff with the committee that she was on not being on the up and up, like holding back certain information and stuff like that. So yeah, the January 6th committee is what he would get Liz Cheney on if they chose to investigate that. But once again, I have no desire to look backwards and focus on all that stuff. Let's focus on the job ahead and just push forward and do what we need to do, and not going back and rehashing January 6th or COVID. Let's just move on.
Yeah. I don't think it's worth doing that. I think it is going to waste goodwill that people have. Let's move on from it.
Yeah. Is DWC coming on before we move on to the next topic?
I just shot him the link. Hey, DWC, if you're coming, right. Come on, bro.
Yeah, we got some more stuff to get into. Yep. I agree, Future. Just leave the January 6th stuff behind. If you want to pardon the people that's in prison already, do that, but then move on and say, hey, we're pardoning all of these people. We are going to have a national day of reconciliation, and we're going to put this day behind us, and we're going to move forward. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. We got somebody in the building. Hold on. Wait a minute.
Is it the elder statesman?
The elder statesman himself.
Mr. Morehouse himself.
Oh, hold on. He got it. You on mute on purpose? Oh, let me get this dude. Let me get this dude right here.
There he is.
There we go.
There he is. Oh. Yeah, you real big, man.
Why you getting all big, man? What's up with that?
Hey, I
I'm gonna
got
sit back.
sit back, bro.
Here,
You
let me
go
get
the
my
other
What's
car.
good,
I'm
man?
gonna sit in
Go
the
the other
garage.
direction.
There
There
you
it
Right, what
is.
the
go.
world is
Okay.
wrong with your phone? Okay, there we go. Bro, that eCam, man, the eCam be throwing you off, man. Okay, y'all kind of talked about it. Trump should not go after anybody on a legal, judicial type of, anything like that. This is what you do. You pardon all J6ers. Get out of here. Time
Yeah.
served, and allow them an opportunity. If they want to, if they need to, y'all can sue. But also remove all restrictions for talking about that the pandemic. Just allow everybody to go back to free speech. You can talk about it on social media, just like you would have done in 2018. Allow them to do that. I think that will get enough people's frustration out and get all, because that's what it is it's frustration that people can't say the words that they want to say. So
Mhm.
you know what? If he just remove all those restrictions and and I agree with you, Kevin, focus forward. Don't even go backwards. All you're doing is
No.
forward. I'm getting rid of all J6, all of that. Get them out of there right now, immediately, and allow them to sue, and then allow everybody to get back to regular conversation, not the those little banners that say you're giving false medical advice.
Oh, yeah.
Allow everybody to talk freely like they used to before we started this pandemic. I think that
Yeah.
would be perfect. And then, of course, everything forward, focusing on building the economy. I think anything that Trump does that will allow us to your pocketbook to directly impact it is a win for everybody. Even the blue hairs, the no hairs, all of us, everybody. Just keep doing things that are good for all Americans. I think he's going to win. I mean, it'll be a great thing for the party moving forward.
I 100% agree. Focus on getting wins. Just win, man. Win
Yeah,
for
just
the
win.
people. People want government spending brought under control. People
Get the
want,
win.
the economy boosted. They want
Get the win.
focus on those things. If they do those things, and of course, seal the border and stuff like that.
Get the win.
Get illegal immigration in check, right?
That's it. And it doesn't have to be demonstrative. It doesn't have to be this, like, because he made some promises that you kind of scratch your head like, dude, I don't know if you know, that's not really possible. It doesn't matter. All you got to do is just get wins.
Yeah.
So get like Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. Sir, let's just be honest. Let's just get to the moon. If we get to the moon, we're good. I mean, you've done far more than anybody else. Let's go check on that. Let's go check on that rover we left up there. Like, let's go check on it. If you do that, we're winning. We're already winning. So it doesn't need to be these demonstrative grand slams. You can get a base hit and be doing pretty well. All you need is, you get 4 base hits, you got to run. So just keep small incremental wins. That's all I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I don't feel like I look good. I don't feel like I look nearly as good as Billy D and Billy C over here. So I'm gonna get up out of here. I don't think I look nearly as good as Billy D and Billy G over here.
Oh man,
I'm messing up what y'all doing, man. This ain't gonna go good.
No,
for
you
your
ain't
clip.
messing. Hold on, real quick. Hey, there it is. There it is. You look real good.
Hey.
boom, boom.
Man,
Look at that.
BWC in 8K, as Future says. He in 8K, man.
19K. What in the world y'all talking about, man? I'm glad I brushed my teeth, man. Good gracious. Y'all over here got your brother. But no, man.
But yeah,
great conversation, man. Go ahead. What are you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, hey man, I'm glad you popped in.
No problem, man. Thank y'all for having me. Thanks for dropping the link.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm gonna get back in this chat and keep talking trash.
All right, man.
Hey, we appreciate you, man.
Always good, man. I'll catch y'all in a minute.
All right.
Yep. All right. Well, we got to move on. We've got to move on. So our next topic, I'm glad we brought up illegal immigration because some people in Chicago have had enough, and they gave Mayor Johnson a mouthful about his statements about basically not helping the federal government or the Trump administration to remove illegal immigrants from the city. And so the residents had something to say, and I was taken back by it. I don't know about you.
Oh yeah. I mean, you want to talk about throwing hands?
Oh yeah, they were throwing hands. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
hear what these folk had to say. I mean, they were ready to get thrown out, I'm pretty sure.
Said you will not allow Trump to come in here and get these illegals. Yeah, you can smile. We're in $1 billion deficit. And you spent half of our money, half of that on illegals. Trump, Tom Homan, make an example out this right here first. Please come here first, because you know what? We're going to help you. We want to forensic.
Ma'am, I would ask that you
keep
your, hold on a second, stop her time.
Our mayor is embarrassing us, y'all, around the world. And you all took the power back from him to say the city of Chicago is out of the business of funding illegals. We are out of the business of prioritizing non-American citizens on top of the American citizens who go out in this cold weather every day to make money to pay their taxes.
You so strong about protecting those aliens, but you won't do nothing for the U.S. citizens.
Here you are with another gritty property tax hike, trying to push the have-nots to house your precious illegal immigrants. You told Trump you ain't gonna blink? Well, we ain't either. You ain't above the law, and where you gonna run to when Trump pulls that Trump card out on you? I will make it my duty to try to get my gun to perform an Operation Great Lord 2.0 in Chicago and lock all of you crooked Democrats and judges up. And it's just like that.
Wow.
Man.
Wow. I mean, what? First of all, okay. Let me just say this, man. Let me just say this. I didn't see not one white person in that video. That was all black people. These are black people in Chicago, okay?
Yeah.
When you want to talk about Democratic strongholds, Chicago is Mordor. Chicago is I mean, as blue as it gets. And these folks have had it. These folks have had it. It's really interesting because there was a video, it was a video years ago where there was a bunch of people. They had this camera set up, and I can't remember if it was Shia LaBeouf set up that camera, and I don't think he expected it. It might have been Shia LaBeouf's camera where people could go and give messages to Trump, and these folk came and said, hey, Trump, we want to talk because the Democrats over here, they ain't doing anything for us. Yeah, and I think that was Chicago.
So this is an issue with Mayor Johnson. He doesn't make sense, right? They like New York, they have a migrant crisis in terms of the amount of money it's costing, in terms of the amount of resources they're having to put behind it. They're having to take community centers and turn them into places where immigrants can live, and at the same time, he's proposing to raise the taxes in the city, and saying the city won't cooperate with the Trump administration for removing the illegals. So those citizens are going, wait a minute, you want to raise my taxes so you can keep funding illegal immigrants, and you won't work with the federal government to help remove them, but you want to raise my taxes to help pay for this stuff. That's what people are upset about. And that's what really doesn't make any sense. From a policy standpoint, it doesn't make any sense for him to talk about raising people's taxes to pay for this, but then being stubborn and planting his feet down and trying to oppose the Trump administration and to stop ICE from actually removing these people out. And so it just doesn't make sense. It's like one of those things, like if you want to take care of them, open up your house and bring them in your house. But don't talking about raising my taxes to pay for something that nobody else in the city asked for. But it's something that you want to do. You believe in it, so you take care of it. But don't talk about raise. I mean, Chicago taxes are already crazy high. Like, their property taxes are ridiculous. And he's talking about raising them some more. Yeah, it just makes no sense. So I hope they vote him out. If they don't vote him out, then they get what they deserve. But I hope he gets.
DWC saying 2028 it's going to be a battleground state. That would be incredible. That'd be amazing.
The states around them are Ohio, not Indiana, but Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Indiana's red. Iowa's red. It don't make any sense for Illinois to be right there in the middle of all of that and be hard blue. They need to wake up. And it looks like they are waking up because this is ridiculous. The policy makes no sense to talk about raising people's taxes to pay for this stuff and then saying you don't want to remove them, but you want to raise my taxes. That makes no sense. No sense. And like I said, people are already struggling. They're later like, we go out here and work hard in this cold weather to pay our taxes, to pay our taxes. And he's talking about raising them to continue to fund other people who are in the country legally. It just makes no sense. So I hope they vote him out.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be amazing. I mean, another potential upset that we could see as a result of the Trump presidency would be incredible.
And I say this, not just vote him out, actually vote for something different. Because when they voted out Mayor Lightfoot, because they were sick of her, they voted for someone who was further to the left. Brandon Johnson is further to the left than Lightfoot. And it's and now they're complaining about it's like, you keep voting for the same thing. You're gonna have to get over it and vote with somebody with an R by their name. You got to vote for something different. Otherwise, you're gonna keep getting the same failed policies in terms of your policing, your DAs, the crime in the city, the high taxes, all of that stuff is going to continue if you keep voting for these Lightfoot communist socialist types in the city. It's just going to keep happening.
That's wild. I didn't know you could get further to the left than Lightfoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, if you want to read this one, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah. Chicago is full of black folks that don't want to help anyone that look like them. Same type of folks that are mad about student loan relief since they had to pay everyone else should too. They don't want to help anyone that looks like that. I don't think that's the case. Same type of folks that are mad about student loan relief since they had to pay everyone should pay. That has nothing to do with anything. And yes, if you took out loans, you should pay them back. That's the whole point. Taxpayers who did not take out loans and taxpayers who a lot of them didn't go to college, they should not be paying for your college because you chose to take out loans and now you don't want to pay them back. No, you cut down your living, you drive a little bit less nicer car and pay your student loans, right?
Yeah.
So taking money from other people to pay loans for people who went to college, no, that's not that has nothing to do with helping other people. You're not in need of help. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. Student loan forgiveness would be a horrible idea.
Yep.
Because it just incentivizes people to take out more bad student loans because they believe that one day they're going to be forgiven and they're not going to pay it back. No,
Correct.
You got to live with the consequences of your actions. And teach other people, hey, don't do what I did. Make sure if you take out loans, it's for a career or a field that's going to be able to pay this back or that is worth it instead of just taking out tens of thousands of dollars in student loans to get a degree in sociology. That if you did that, that's on you, right? But you should wiping that out doesn't solve the problem. You're just encouraging more people to go get more bad student loans that then we have to go and pay and pay for. So
it's a terrible idea. I'm still paying off my student loans, but the other reason it's a terrible idea is because it is going to further balloon the cost of college, because what happened when we
Yes.
started giving federal loans, those colleges and universities knew that money was out there, so they increased the tuition because they're like, well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get that money. If the money's out there, I'm gonna get that money. And
No
so
matter what they raise the prices to, the government will subsidize it with a loan, and people keep taking out the loans, no matter how high they raise the cost. That's the problem.
yeah,
You know.
it's going to make the market worse. It's going to make the market worse. It's the same thing. We can look at it in two other scenarios. Okay, you can look at it in the scenario of insurance. You notice if you go and you get health care from somewhere, there's a radically different price if it is being paid for through insurance versus being paid for directly by you. They charge the insurance companies way more. And so when you hear the price on a certain procedure, and then you say, "Oh, well, I'm doing self-pay." Well, that's a different price. It's much lower price because they charge crazy. And so these prices on healthcare get blown up because of a really messed up relationship between healthcare and insurance companies. Here's another example. The idea that Kamala had, where she's talking about she's going to give all first-time home buyers a $25,000 tax credit or whatever. You know what's going to happen? People are going to raise the house prices by $25,000.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I'll say this because we did go too far down the rabbit. The point is, people not wanting to vote for progressive policies does not mean they don't care about people. That has always been the disconnect with the Democrats and with leftists, is if you don't support my policy, you don't care about X people, right? And it's always about what the government needs to do for someone else, right? No, that is not the issue. The way to help someone is not always government program. And so, someone not supporting a particular policy, a government policy, doesn't mean they don't care about other people. And so that's always the what's thrown out there. And I used to joke. I used to like, man, as a conservative, if I watch the news, I hate I hate minorities, I hate poor people, I hate old people, I hate the environment, I hate babies, I hate children, I hate LGBTQ, I hate anything you don't vote for on their policy, they say you hate it, right? And so the obvious choice is that I just hate everything then, because that's the only way things are painted, is if you disagree with my policy, you hate this group of people, right? And so that's basically what this comment is saying. If you don't vote for student loan forgiveness, you don't care about black people that look like you. That makes no sense. No, I just think that's not the government's job, and you need to take care of your own loans that you took out. Personal responsibility is a thing, and not punting it off on someone else. So
Amen.
So Chicago, illegal immigration. And so let's keep talking about illegal immigration, because something else happened this week. And it's, once again, progressive policies have consequences. Well, all policies have consequences, but progressives tend to think theirs don't. But in New York, a Manhattan prosecutor was robbed in her house by an illegal immigrant. Since June, he has been arrested 7 times. Since June, this man, who is an illegal alien, he's in the country illegally, has been arrested 7 times in New York and put back on the street. Up until the point now, he has forced a Manhattan prosecutor into her home, robbed her, did some other indecent things before leaving. And when he was getting arrested, he was smiling. Those are the result of sanctuary cities and progressive DAs who refuse to prosecute crime. Alan Bragg can spend all of that time and money going after Trump on fake, drummed up charges around Stormy Daniels and election stuff. But yet, in real, actual crime that happened in his city, he has been negligent. The police arrest people, and then the DA refused to prosecute or drop the charges or push it down to some low-level thing, and the person gets released back to the street. And then the police have to arrest that person again. And these weren't petty crimes. The dude was being arrested for real stuff, and they refused to not only not put him in jail, but to not deport him. They just kept putting him back on the street. This is the result of progressive policies and progressive ideology. That ain't tough on crime. That's not believing in the rule of law. That is not caring about the safety. That's not caring about public safety. The fact that people commit crimes, you basically wave a magic wand, make the crimes go away, put them back on the street. What do you think they're gonna do? They're gonna keep committing crimes, right? And how do you think that makes your police force feel that they have to keep arresting the same people because you won't put them in jail? It makes no sense, and people keep voting for this. Stop voting for this nonsense based on the person having a D by their name or the color blue. It's stupid. Stop voting for stupid policies and stupid people. Stop being sheep. Stop being so politically biased that you're just voting for someone like they're your favorite sports team. This is not sports. You don't root for a team. Use your brain and think about the policies. Think about what the effect of the policy is. I don't care how it makes you feel. If it feels good, it doesn't matter, right? What does it actually do? And is it effective? And does it make the city better? Does it improve people? Is it what the government is designed to do? Think through it. Use your brains and stop being sheep and just going with whatever you're told. Stop letting people fearmonger you. Stop voting for these people. Wake up. And that's my message. Because it just makes no sense. End of
I feel you. I mean, look at this guy. Look at this guy smiling. The level of brazenness.
Yeah, but what bothers me is that those same people will go out and vote for this again.
They will. They will, because of what you said. What you said earlier is like, oh, well, if you're a conservative, then you hate everybody and everything. That's the thought of what a conservative is. And you talk to some of these folks, especially in a Democratic stronghold like New York, which is less of a Democratic stronghold after this election. They definitely
because of stuff like this.
Yes. Yes. And but you talk to some of those people and you can tell that their idea of what a conservative is, and yes, Future, man, he went Stephen A. He threw them. He was out there.
It's just frustrating to see people do the same thing over and over again, and it's only about. But they've allowed people to manipulate them to think that to be a good person or to be on the right side means you must vote for this party, right? Instead of actually examining what have they actually done. Instead of examining, are their policies effective, right? And I'm gonna go here on this one too, because I noticed the guy is of, he's an illegal immigrant. He's from Venezuela. He's a person of color, as they like to say. The reason they will not put these people in jail is because this idea about systemic racism, and that if the population of the prison system is filled with people of color, therefore somehow that means the prison system or the justice system is therefore systemically racist. Instead of saying, no, we are arresting and prosecuting people who commit crimes no matter how they look. If it winds up being a bunch of people of color, then so be it. But that is one of the reasons this progressive, ideology is the reason they're doing this within the justice system is because of critical race theory, and them believing that if people of color are overrepresented in the justice system, then therefore that means the justice system is systemically racist. And I'm just gonna be clear. That's just stupid. It's just dumb. They are committing crimes, and you're putting them back on the street because you don't want to put brown people in jail. That's stupid.
It is stupid.
It just don't make sense. Put these people in jail. As a black man, as a person of color, put people who commit crimes, especially stuff like assault and burglary and all, put them in jail. Because what's happening in Chicago and New York? You go in a store and everything is behind a glass locked up, and you got to go get somebody to unlock the glass to hand you some deodorant or some soap or whatever it is you need, because they got to lock it all up, because the people won't prosecute crimes. They won't prosecute the people who raid these stores and steal the merchandise. The DAs won't prosecute them. Right? Stop voting for this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that if we see, okay, if we see a shift here with this administration of cultural attitude towards this, which we have, right? You don't get an election beatdown like that without there being a cultural shift. So clearly there's a cultural shift in the attitude towards this, and people are tired of it. You know, we looked at the video from Chicago. People are tired of it, man. They're tired of it. And I am holding out hope. I'm holding out hope that people of color, because I think that people of color is basically a leftist term that they came up with to try to pit everybody who's not white against white people, to try to build a governing coalition. That's what they were trying to do.
Absolutely.
And so I hate that term. I think it's a culturally Marxist term.
You're right.
But
I apologize for using a culturally Marxist term. I apologize.
I'll forgive you this time, man. I forgive you. No, I get it though. I get you used it right, because you're using their own word basically to describe why they keep voting for this mess and why they allow this to happen. Again, people are tired of it. And then, you know, one thing, I don't know if we had this one in here, but Mayor Adams.
We should have put that one in. I forgot about that.
Go ahead and cancel me. He said, go ahead and cancel me. I'm going to work with Trump and Holman. Go ahead and cancel me. And I'm
that
like,
is a perfect,
man.
That is a perfect example of the opposite of Brandon Johnson in Chicago. Yeah, Mayor Adams in New York. He's been bringing the immigration thing up as a problem, right? Because it's a major problem and a major drain on their city, and they just can't support that many people flooding in. They just can't. It's a problem. And he's been vocal about it for years. And he said, we're going to work with President Trump on this, because those people have to go back home. They just do. They have to go back home. We should have played that one as a counter to the Mayor Johnson thing.
I got it pulled up here if we want to look at it real quick.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yep, we got it. So let's take a look at what he had to say. They're gonna make me look at an ad first.
I have two questions that have to do with immigrants and the possibility that they could be deported under the new administration. Number one, there were a number of people in the city government and the immigration community who had a press conference today calling on deportation, not only new immigrants, but other people who are here that haven't gotten their green cards yet. So number one, I'm asking your reaction to that, and that's something I'm wondering what you will be doing in terms of trying to protect immigrants in the city. And secondly, do you plan to meet with the President-elect's new Homeland and Border Security Czar, and what will you be telling him, and what do you hope to come from the exchange?
Well, as you know, we have a nation-leading Asylum Application Help Center. National leaders in this space, they visited the city, they looked at what we were doing, and they stated no one is doing what you're doing in the country. And so those national advocates that don't try to play the politics of it locally, they came in and did a walkthrough. And we're going to continue to do the good work we're doing. And this includes the TPS, temporary protected status. This includes work authorization, all the things I've been advocating for. Migrants, asylum seekers, and others, they want to work. They want to participate in the American dream, and we need to find a way for them to do that. But we cannot ignore the fact that the American people have communicated to us loudly and clearly, we have a broken system, they want it fixed. And we need to fix our immigration system. We need to secure our border, and we need to make sure that whomever we parole into this country is going to have an opportunity to work in this country. Particularly, the irony of this all, Marsha, is that we have municipalities that are looking for workers, including New York, and that are having population crisis. This is not making any sense to me at all. When I speak to my electors across the country, they're saying, Eric, we need workers. We're willing to take migrants and asylum seekers that are not criminals and committing crimes. We're willing to take them, but they have to be able to work. So I don't understand why this wasn't clear to the previous administration. And so your question about meeting with the new border czar, yes, I reached out to him and shared I would like to sit down and speak with him to hear what are his ideas. Because I don't want people talking at each other. I want people to talk to each other. And I made it clear that I'm not going to be warring with this administration. I'm going to be working with this administration. President Trump is the president-elect, and whomever he chooses to run his agencies, I'm looking forward to sitting down and see how do we better New York.
Boom. 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 He said he reached out to Tom Holman.
That's awesome.
That dude want to get something done.
Yeah. That's excellent. I think that's the right attitude to have towards it. I mean, I'll say personally, I do think that the immigration system is broken. That's one thing that Harris said on the campaign trail. That's one thing that she said that I actually have to agree with her on. The immigration system is broken. It's too hard to come here legally. It's too hard to come here legally, but it's too easy to come here illegally. And it's ridiculous that it's so easy to come here illegally, but people who would come here legally, who we would want, it's unnecessarily difficult. And I know a number of immigrants who have talked about the process that they're having to go through to be able to come here. One guy's a close friend of mine up in Canada. He's been trying to get into the United States. He's been trying to move his family here because he's trying to get away from Justin Trudeau. He's been trying to move his family here for years. I'm like, man, I will take 10 of him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'll take 10 of him versus the kind of people that we seem to be just letting in here versus the guy that we saw just a minute ago who went in there and robbed that lady and then did a heinous act in front of her. That's the kind of stuff that I think is broken, and we do need to fix that stuff. But I appreciate very much that he could actually say from his mouth on camera, we need to secure the border. He was able to say those words. A lot of Democrat mayors and governors, et cetera, are not willing to say that, and he was willing to say it.
And that's crazy. That shouldn't even be a controversial thing to say. It really shouldn't.
No.
All right. I think we are running long, man. We spent a lot of time on the domestic topics. I did not expect that to go like that. But it was good though, so we needed to.
Yeah.
But let's switch it up to international because there are some things going on in the world. Mainly with Syria. I don't know if people have been following. If you haven't been following what's going on in Syria, so in 2011 there was a civil war started in Syria, and since 2000 that had been under a ceasefire. Well, that ceasefire broke this week or last week as rebel fighters made at a unexpected offensive and took the second largest city in the country, and they are continuing to kind of push and gain territory against the Syrian government forces. And this is a big deal. Number one, this situation is really complicated. There's a lot of players involved. There's a lot of different people on different sides. Russia's involved. They support the Syrian government. Turkey is involved. Turkey is supporting the opposition forces. Well, that one particular group. The United States is in Syria, and we are supporting the Kurds in that region, and also still fighting and keeping ISIS forces at bay that are in the country. And so, yeah, it's a lot of different people and forces in this country that most people don't know about. But what happened, like I said, unexpected offensive. They took the second largest city in the country, and they're continuing to make moves. This has kind of caused some serious problems, or it's revealed where there are some problems with the Syrian-Russian relationship, because this is the first time that they've had actual fighting there since Russia went to war in Ukraine. So it's bringing to the question of, can Russia fight this war in Ukraine and also support the Syrian government and fight against these rebel forces? Because right now those rebel forces are winning. Um, you also have the idea or the fact that Russia's main partner on the ground in Syria was Hezbollah. Well, what has happened to Hezbollah is Israel started targeting Hezbollah in Lebanon, their leadership, and basically took out all of their leadership. So that has affected Hezbollah's actions, not just in Lebanon, but also in Syria. And so it's showing that there's a weakness there within the Syrian coalition, I guess you can call it, the Iranian coalition, because that's really what this is. This is Iranian influence. And so, yeah, it's this conflict is so complicated, it's so deep, there's so many different factors and forces involved. But just know that the fighting has started again. And people talk about Gaza and the number of deaths and displaced people. Gaza has nothing on Syria. Syria is the number of people who died, the number of people who have been displaced are they are way beyond anything in Gaza. And so when people were screaming about a genocide in Gaza, it's a genocide, my reaction was, why didn't anybody say this about Syria when Syria is way worse? Way more deaths, way more people displaced. Why hasn't a single soul screamed genocide in Syria? But they screamed it from day one in Gaza. And it's because it has nothing to do with it actually being real. And it was just a political take and a political weapon used. But the situation in Syria is really bad. And there's no end solution in sight. I don't know how this thing ends. I don't think the country of Syria will ever be whole again. I don't think their government will ever have power and control over the entire country again. They just don't have the ability to regain it. And so what's going to happen to Syria? Because right now it's just this fragmented kind of this group controls this part, this group controls this part, another group controls that part, and there's really no end in sight to who's actually going to rule and control the country. So that's what's going on in Syria. Have you kind of seen anything on this? I know foreign policy and stuff is kind of my bag, but I didn't know how spun up you might be on this.
No, it's interesting because I hadn't heard anything about it, and I think that is it says something because I'm I'm a political junkie for the most part, and so I'm surprised that I hadn't heard anything about it.
Yeah.
And I think you're right when you say that the cries that what's happening in Gaza is a genocide and all that stuff, which doesn't line up with the actual definition of the word.
No.
So it didn't even meet the definition. Of course, it's not a genocide. What's happening in Gaza, but to hear about what's happening in Syria, that is that is terrible, man. It's terrible.
Yeah, and I'll say the takeaway. So in the Middle East, there are two types of main Islamic factions. You got the Sunnis and the Shias. Iran is the kind of the leader of the Shias. Almost every other Muslim country is a Sunni country. Syria's leadership is Shia, so that's why they are partnered with Iran. Iraq is mostly Shia, but outside of that, the rest of the Middle East and most of Muslims around the world are Sunnis. So what this is when you look at the fact that Israel took out Hamas, Israel has significantly limited Hezbollah. You've got the Syrian government, Bashir, who is an ally of Iran, who seems to be losing more of his country. What you're seeing is the influence of Iran in the region shrinking, and their ability to kind of, I won't say wage war, but just kind of use their proxy groups to kind of disrupt the region. You're seeing that ability being significantly affected as their proxy groups are just getting taken out, like Hezbollah and Hamas. The Houthis are going to be next if they don't stop, attacking ships in the sea, but all of that is being driven by Iran. And so the reason that Turkey is supporting this opposition group in Syria is because the opposition group is Sunni and Turkey is Sunni, right? And so it's the same Sunni Shia conflict thing that's always been going on. It's just being concentrated in Syria right now. And so it's still a religious war, there are some ethnic stuff involved too, but it's mainly along religious lines. And so from a US standpoint and what we care about, it is really to degrade Iran's influence in the region and their ability this is what I was trying to say earlier, their ability to destabilize the region, because that's all they do. That's what their goal is. And so it's kind of not necessarily that, hey, we really want these opposition forces to win because they're the good guys. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more so of degrading Iran's influence and ability to disrupt the region. And the more that becomes a thing, the more the goal is peace, right? That's the long-term goal. People want peace. And Iran is a real hindrance to peace in the region. So that's what's going on in Syria. I can get real nerdy and talk about the opposition group and where they came from and how they used to be part of Al Qaeda and all, but that'll put everybody to sleep.
Well, I do have a question for for my benefit and for the listener, for the viewers and the listeners here. Can you explain the conflict between the Shia and the Sunni Muslims?
Yeah. So this goes all the way back to the death of Muhammad. Muhammad did not name. First of all, he got sick and died kind of suddenly and unexpectedly, and he had never really named a successor. And so, an immediate split came between those who believe that next in line should be those in power. So basically like his generals, his right-hand man, that's next up. And those are the Sunnis. The other faction believes it should be Muhammad's bloodline, his relatives. And they follow his cousin Ali. And those are the Shias. And so that's really where the divide happened right after Muhammad's death, about who next line of succession for Islam and leadership. And since then, since that break, they've had major doctrinal differences now. So their belief systems are different. Um, yeah, it's just two. I mean, there's both Islamic, but they don't believe the same things in terms of theology. And I mean, from a Christian standpoint, it's like, you know, um, I don't know, a Baptist and a Jehovah Witness kind of deal, right? They just don't believe the same things, even though they appear to be under the same banner. They just not under the same things. And then um I'm trying not to dive too far into it, but there's a certain faction within Sunni Islam called Salafism. And Salafism is kind of a puritanical movement. It's a reform movement. It's a movement to reform Islam back to its roots, right? So it's a very fundamentalist movement. That's what Al Qaeda is. That's what ISIS is. That's what all of these groups are. They're Salafist groups. So when we talk about Islam, that's too broad of a term. It's Salafism, right? So the group that is fighting in Syria, they're a Salafist group. And the thing about Salafists, they do not view Shias as Muslims, right? They view them as heretics. And so that's what you need to remember. They do not view these people as other Muslims, right? And so that's kind of a broad overview of what the conflict is. It is a religious war on theological difference. They go all the way back to the death of Muhammad in the 7th century. So,
wow, I had no idea. So would you say that the Shias are, I'm trying to put this into paradigms and a mental model that I understand, and maybe these categories don't fit well. But would you say that the Shias are more theologically liberal than the Salafic Sunnis?
No, they both can be very fundamentalist. They just have very, very different views on, like I say, of course, no, the leadership structure, just their theology in general is very different. But Iran as a Islamic state is still very fundamentalist and restrictive in Sharia law, right? There's just certain things around, I guess you call them saints to a degree, right? So by the Shias believing that it goes through Muhammad's family line, they have kind of like venerated certain people within Muhammad's family. And a Sunni or a Salafist would say that's idolatry, that's heresy, right? And so it's just things like that. There is another group, the Sufis, SUFI, and I compare the Sufis to the Pentecostals. Because they've kind of spiritualized the faith, right? They don't really go for literal beliefs. It's more of a spiritual being, Islam is a spiritual journey, it's very very spiritual, and it's not really about the law and following the law and all of that type of stuff. And so, but that's a very small sect, and they just kind of spread out throughout the world. You're never going to hear about a Sufi group starting a war with somebody. That's just not who they are. But yeah, and so that region is really just divided into Shias and Sunnis, and that's really what the conflict is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's what this show's about, man. It's about being informed. I appreciate I'm learning with everybody else in the audience, man. I love getting to hear this stuff and learn this stuff from you, man.
It's interesting stuff. Like I say, and it's interesting because it affects us, right? When 9/11 happened, that didn't just come out of nowhere, right? There's a history behind that. And so we had to learn, okay, what is this history? What is this conflict? And what does it have to do with us? Right. And so, yeah. That's what it is. And so that's why it still matters, because it can still touch our doorstep. We know that.
Yeah. That's really helpful, and I'm glad you tied it back to that. As what is the American interest in this? And you're right that Iran, if they're able to destabilize further, it causes further problems. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens once Trump takes office with Iran's ability to keep making moves.
Yeah. And this one thing people don't realize. I said it earlier, but I just kind of said it in passing. Most people don't know we still have troops in Syria. Like, we still have forces in Syria doing various things. It's not necessarily that they're out there in combat, but we have people on the ground in Syria. I think an AP article said we have 1,000 troops in Syria, doing various things. But most people don't know that. They think, oh no, everybody's back home and nothing's going on. Like, no. Something's always going on. We never left Syria. We're still there.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. So let's move to Russia, because I got a text message from a buddy. It was like, man, why is Biden trying to start World War III? Right. For those that don't know, President Biden, which makes no sense why he would do it now, because the entire time he has restricted Ukraine from using any of the weapons and stuff that we give them for hitting inside of Russia. They had only been allowed to hit inside of the territory of Ukraine that Russia has taken from them, right? But not into Russia itself. Well, President Biden a couple of weeks ago was like, you know what? Y'all can go ahead and just hit inside Russia with those weapons. And so that's what they started doing. And now Russia is the one angry, and they're threatening to retaliate by saying, hey, we can hit targets in Europe if y'all keep this up. And so they're threatening to hit targets in Europe if we keep allowing the Ukrainians to hit targets in Russia using weapons that we give them. And so, like I said, I don't know why you would restrict Ukraine from doing it all these years since this war started. And now all of a sudden, as you're heading out the door, he's like, hey, y'all can go ahead and escalate that. I'm leaving. It really doesn't make sense now. I didn't like the fact that they were hindered in the first place. If you're going to fund somebody to help them defend themselves, don't tie one hand behind their back. Don't hinder them and say, you know what, but don't really hit Russia for real. No, if it's a war, it's a war. And so we handcuffed the Ukrainians, and now we've taken the handcuffs off as this administration going out the door. And the new administration now is going to have to come in and handle this escalated problem that the administration is leaving them. It just makes no sense. But Putin and Russia this is one thing people don't need to realize. This is why Trump talks nice about Putin. All of these world leaders want to feel powerful. If you talk down to them in the public, you force them to have to talk and act big because they have to protect their pride and their image, right? And so that's really what Putin is doing now. And that's what Russia's doing. That they are not actually going to hit targets in Europe because they're not looking for that level of a war, because that's exactly what would come. But they have to say it, right? They have to threaten it. They have to be big and bad and but they're not going to do anything. So that's why I tell people, I text my buddy Best, like, no, World War III is not starting. Just don't get caught up in the rhetoric. Putin's going to say a lot of stuff, right? He's going to talk about using nukes. He's going to say a lot of stuff. He's not doing it because he's, what does it say? Basically a general before he goes to battle basically counts the cost of how many men does it take and does he have it and all. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it.
Right.
Right. And so no, he's not looking to broaden this war to other countries. He don't want to broaden this war to NATO. No. So he's not gonna do it, but he's gonna talk big and bad. So
Yeah.
that's where we are.
I was wondering. I was wondering about hearing your perspective about this. I've been curious about it for a while, so I'm glad to kind of get your insight because, yeah, I mean, of course he's talking big, and it reminds me of a principle that I learned from one of my martial arts teachers. You know, he said, you know, when you're in a situation where there's a man who's being the aggressor, it hasn't escalated to actual physical violence, but it's being threatened. If there is a way to allow him to still feel like a man, to walk away with his manhood, let him do it. Let him do it. If you make it to where there's no way for him to maintain his pride without fighting you, he's going to fight you.
Going to fight you. Absolutely. That's a perfect analogy. And what Trump is going to do is come in and come up with something that allows Putin to walk away with his pride. That's how he's going to end this war. You know, Putin's not going to get everything he wants. Ukraine's not going to get everything they want. But Putin is going to be able to walk away with his pride and be able to take something back to his people and say, look what we did. Right. He can't go home empty-handed. He knows that.
Right. Yeah.
Trump knows he can't go back empty-handed, you know. But it's going to be a price to pay for starting this war in Ukraine. You know, I don't think Trump is just going to completely sell out the Ukrainians. I think he knows that Putin has to pay a price for starting this war, and that price it needs to be Ukraine gets in NATO. I know that's his no-go, but it's gonna be like, no, you get to keep the territory you've taken, you get to keep it. But the rest of Ukraine as is will join NATO to protect it from any other further incursions from you. Right. That's what it needs to be. And it needs to be, and this is the final offer. Either you take it now or we're just gonna fully arm the Ukrainians. Right. And back them up. That's how you solve this issue. Is either take this deal because it's the best deal. No, the first deal is the best deal. If you want to play ball, the deal gets worse, right? And so either you take this deal and you walk away with something, or you're gonna lose everything. And that's the deal. That's the ultimatum you give them. You know, and Trump knows that, and that's what he's gonna do. And so that's kind of where we are this week. And so I tell everybody to calm down when they hear this type of rhetoric, because Iran does the same stuff. Oh, death to America and all of this stuff, and then they fire a rocket off, or Kim Jong-un in North Korea. He's great for doing that. He'll say some crazy rhetoric, and then he'll test a missile. Right? He's just acting out. He's not going to do anything. He's just acting out. It's a show of force. It makes him look strong in front of his people. And we say, okay, Kim Jong, what do you want? Okay, we'll give you this, whatever. Like, it's not Iran, same thing, right? They death to America, death to Israel, and then they fire off some missiles or something. But they're not trying to hit that for real, right? Like when they hit our, like when we kill their general in Iraq in an airstrike, they had to retaliate so they didn't look weak. So they fired a couple of missiles over at one of our bases, didn't hit anything. We may or may not knew when they were going to do it. It may have been a phone call, behind the scenes. Okay, y'all gonna fire a missile. Okay, all right, we will make sure ain't nobody out there. They have to look strong in the public eye, but behind the scenes, they're not trying to hit the United States. They're not crazy, or what they're not really trying to hit one of our bases. They're not suicidal, right? There is still a healthy fear of, we do not want to unleash the Americans on us. And so, that it's just a lot of, it's gamesmanship, it's rhetoric. And I just tell people, don't get so caught up in it. Look at the actions more so than the rhetoric. The actions will tell you more than anything. If Russia is starting to gear up, and it's like, man, they are getting ready for some type of major offensive, like they are beefing up. Okay, let's see what they do, you know. But if it's the status quo and it's just a lot of rhetoric, nah, that's don't get caught up with that. So,
yeah, you know, one last question for you here. You know, say he doesn't take the best deal. Say he doesn't take the first deal, and I don't see this happening. I think you're right. I see him taking a deal because he knows that if this escalates further, he doesn't have the manpower, et cetera, to win.
Well, so this is the thing about how the Russians fight wars. The Russians fight wars in a way in which they do not care about their people. They don't care about losing troops. They look at it, we have more troops than you. We can last longer than you. So they don't care how many tens of thousands of them die, because tens of thousands of yours are going to die and they have more. That's how they look at it, right? And so now they've got, they went out and they got, Chechen rebels to come help them fight. Now they got North Koreans over there trying to help. They don't really have the army and the force and the numbers. I mean, they have more than the Ukrainians do, of course. But Russia is also still struggling with their numbers, right? The last thing they want is this thing to continue to keep going, and even to escalate further. Because like I said, it's like we've been giving the Ukrainians the bronze package, right? And it's like, if you don't take the deal, we're going to give them the gold package, right? We're going to give them the stuff they need, the good stuff, right? And that ain't what you want. And so if he doesn't take the deal, that's what he's facing. He's facing a escalation of a better armed Ukrainian force, And for what? What's his end goal? What is he going to get? He's not going to take the country. He's not getting Ukraine as he tried to get it at first. He's got a portion of the country, the eastern part of the country. He needs to take it and walk away, because that's it.
Yeah.
And his whole thing about no NATO, that's not going to happen. I mean, in the last 10 years, he invaded this country twice. He took Crimea in 2014, and then he just tried to take the whole country and failed, but now he's just got the eastern portion of the country. If there comes a peace deal without Ukrainian protections like NATO, it's only going to be a matter of time before he goes back in again. It's just that, I mean, that's the reason NATO exists. It's because of that. People have tried to blame NATO for this war. But in reality, the only thing this war shows is why NATO exists. Because Putin he wants to bully his neighbors, right? His whole goal is basically regional power. The old Soviet Union, right? He believes the countries around them have to bow to them. But when that country has NATO protections, Putin can't threaten them that way because they have NATO protections. He doesn't like that, right? So it's not about is an encroachment on Russia. It's not that Putin is afraid of NATO as his offensive force. It's a defensive force. It's a defensive treaty, right? He doesn't like it because it limits his power and influence in the region to bully other countries to do what he wants them to do. That's what it's about. It has nothing to do with Russian safety. It has nothing to do with Russian national security. It is all about his ability to bully and punk his neighbors. That's it.
Yeah. I've heard the rhetoric from Americans.
Yes.
From Americans.
Yes.
Saying, oh, well, they provoked him into this war, and it's because of NATO. And if they had never talked about making Ukraine a NATO country, and if they hadn't put this country into NATO that's right on Russia's border, then this would have never happened. No. The reason that NATO exists, like you said, is to stop this from happening. If the issue is Russian security, NATO never talked about going into Russia and taking anything.
No.
He knows that. He knows they don't want that. It's purely a defensive measure. So the reason that you're mad about it is because it stops you from doing what you wanted to do all along, which was conquest. That's what you wanted to do all along. And you are mad because that is chess pieces moving on the board that cover things on the line, and you can't take the line.
Yeah. And even if it's not physical conquest, it is bullying. It is the threat of conquest, right? It's political conquest. Like, you're gonna do politically what we want you to do, because if you don't, we're big bad Russia, right?
Yeah.
And when that threat goes away, they try to move more so towards economic. So like some of these countries around them that are dependent on Russia for oil and gas, I think was it Georgia, the country of Georgia? I think at one point in time they tried to their leader tried to stand up to Russia, and in the middle of winter, Russia just cut their gas off, so they didn't have any heat.
Germany. It's like Germany, and Trump told them they were stupid. He told them they were stupid for what they did. To depend on Russia for your fuel? Are you kidding me?
And that's why I was going with that. Like, so if they can't apply military pressure because of NATO, they'll try to apply economic pressure because you're dependent on their oil and gas lines into your country. And once you do that, Russia has you. Putin's going to get you to do what he wants, or he can just turn your gas off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is the game being played. And the same people, I'm not going to use the term because it's triggering the people on the right. No, when you put the word woke in front of it. But the same people that make an excuse for Putin and saying, oh, he only did it because of NATO and this kind of systemic power that forced his hand, they're no different than the people who say black people commit crimes because the system is against them, right? There's no personal agency. The person isn't responsible for their own actions. Their actions are just the result of oppressive forces encroaching around them, right? It's the same arguments, right?
Right.
And they hate that. They hate it when you put the word woke in front of the word right to describe how they're acting and how they're thinking, but it's the same way of thinking about things. When you say basically Putin isn't responsible for his actions of invading another country that posed no threat to him because they wanted to get into NATO. NATO is just a defensive treaty. It is not an offensive force. It is saying if Russia attacks you, the other nations will come to your aid. That's all NATO is. Nobody's lining up troops on Russia's border to invade Russia. And he knows that. It is simply saying, we will protect you from Russia. That's what it is. Right. And so, the fact that, and the people who are saying that, the Americans that are spouting this, is simply because they become isolationist. Right. They become isolationist. And also, just like the left believes everything is controlled by systemic racism and these systems of oppression and the systems of power, right? The right has come to believe that everything is controlled by, let's call it the military industrial complex, right? And so it's all a conspiracy of the power of the military industrial complex. and it has nothing to do with actual geopolitics of nations who make independent decisions based on their own desires and their own wills. And like none of that plays. It's all just the fault of the military industrial complex that's like this mythical figure that hangs above the world and controls it all. And it just like the military industrial complex made Putin do that. That's how people talk about systemic racism in the actions of people in our country. Like it's just this mythical cloud that hangs over that forces people to do these actions. They're not, they can't help themselves, right? That is how the right is now acting and talking about these issues instead of dealing with actual geopolitics and actually understanding what is going on in this game of geopolitics throughout the world, and how do countries respond and act to each other. How does China play into all of this? Also, are other BRIC nations automatically drawn to the conflict if it turns to the hot war between the U.S. and Russia? So this is the thing about BRICS. BRICS is just an economic alliance. There are no military alliances within BRICS. It is a coalition of convenience because like India's a part of BRICS. India and China, even though they've just kind of recently kind of made up and kind of said, okay, truce, they don't get along militarily. There's been skirmishes on the Indian-China border for years because they fight over certain territory and land and border and all that kind of stuff. Also, just China wants to be the big dog in their region, and they want to be able to pump and control all of their neighbors, especially in the South China Sea. Well, that includes India. So India is not necessarily always the biggest fan of China and their military advancements. And so BRICS, you have to think of BRICS as an economic alliance of convenience and opportunity, not a military alliance. China's role in Russia, Ukraine, NATO is China. This thing about China. China has their own goals. They have their own goals. They have their own vision for things. They view Russia as an ally, and they are becoming more of an ally. They're training together now, doing military training events together, stuff like that. But in terms of the war in Ukraine and Putin and Russia's issues with NATO, China really isn't a player, except for the fact of China is kind of playing like a diplomatic role in it, right? China has their own goals and ambitions, and they don't want to get drugged into a war before they're ready to be in a war, right? And China doesn't want to be in a war until they believe that they have surpassed us militarily and economically, right? They don't want to go into that war until they believe they can win it. Believe they can win it until they know they can win it. And right now, that is not the case. And so China is more of a diplomatic voice in this. I don't think the war is going to escalate in Ukraine and Russia. It's just not. There's not enough will behind it from either side for this thing to escalate, because nobody really wants that. Both sides really want it to end. It's just how do you let it end where they get to save face and somebody walks away, everybody walks away with something, and right? And how do we stop from being here 5 years from now? Right? Because if you just give Putin what he wants and you don't give Ukraine protections, we're going to be right here again in 5 years, And so, yeah, that's kind of how it's playing out right now.
Man, that again, I'm learning things because I thought myself that the BRICS alliance, while I knew that it was primarily what was happening was economic because they were trying to potentially set up another currency. I thought that maybe there would be military alliances there as well. So that's interesting.
And there could be, because they are in some form a way of trying to create their own coalition, but there is no military treaty to BRICS. There is no military agreement to BRICS. It is simply an economic agreement. And so it doesn't, but those countries are aligned, but outside of, I mean, Brazil doesn't have a real military for real. South Africa don't. India does, but India is more of an ally to the U.S. militarily than they are to China.
Right.
So it's still just Russia and China at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah. And Russia, if Russia had real military power outside of their nukes, they would have won this war, the war with Ukraine, a long time ago.
Yeah, this war is a blackout of Russia.
Yeah.
As someone in the U.S., as someone who kind of keeps up with this stuff, I was shocked. I was shocked that Russia was unable to successfully wage an effective war plan against Ukraine and execute it and win the war. And that they're in a stalemate, a literal stalemate with Ukraine in a force-on-force war. We're not talking about guerrilla warfare. We're not talking about terrorist groups and, you know, kind of like what we were in Iraq or Afghanistan, where you're controlling the country, but you kind of got this insurgency that pops up out the ground and throws a rocket at you or something. We're talking about force on force, my army against your army. And Russia can't win it. That exposed them. They have the toys. They have the toys, but it takes more than having big guns to effectively run a war. And they don't know how to do it, you know?
Yeah.
Does South Africa have nukes? No. They are not a nuclear power. Yeah, so within the BRICS coalition, it's not, like I said, there's not a whole lot of military power outside of Russia and China. Yeah. Brazil, South Africa, India, no. Does Russia want a failed state on their border? Absolutely. I don't think they do. I think they want Ukraine for themselves. I don't think it would be a failed state. I think the Russian army, well, they tried to take the country earlier. They tried to take Kyiv when this war first started, and they failed. But no, they don't want a failed state on their border, but they want control of the country. I mean, you got to remember, Russia is the remnant of the old Soviet Union when Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. They view Ukraine a lot like China views Taiwan, like as if it's still a part of them, right? And the more Ukraine tries to be independent and go towards the West and say, "Hey, I want to be a part of NATO," Russia kind of comes in and wants to slap them around. It's like, no, you belong to us. You're your own independent country, but at the same time, you got to do what we tell you to do. You know, so it's almost like they're not their own independent country. That the way Russia kind of views and treat them. And when Vladimir Putin, before he started this war, he read this long kind of history about Ukraine and Russia. And in it is very clear that Vladimir Putin does not view Ukraine as a legitimate country. You know, he views it as Russia in his mind. He just doesn't respect it as a country. So he believes he should be able to do with it what he wants. And so, yeah, we have to learn that. You have to learn it from the perspective of the other person, right? How does Putin view Ukraine? How does Putin view Russia? How does Putin view the West, right? What is his objectives? What are his goals? And that's how you have to look at these conflicts and these things, and not just simply from a NATO bad, US bad. Like, no, what is really going on in this game that's being played between these countries, these two different world leaders, you know, Zelensky and Putin, you know. And it had a lot to do with Zelensky didn't kiss the ring. Zelensky wanted to take Ukraine towards the West as a Western ally, not a Russian ally. And Putin didn't want that. And he sent a message like he did to Georgia, because the same thing happened to Georgia, the country of Georgia. which borders Russia. They wanted to be in NATO. They wanted to move west, and Putin went to war with them. He invaded the country, and he won that one pretty easy. They rolled over Georgia, and he sent the message. The message was, "You belong to us." And so that's what's going on in the world. That's why NATO exists. NATO did not make Putin invade Ukraine. He did that on his own accord for his own reasons and his own ambitions. Yeah. So that is what's going on in the world. And like I said, I don't see it escalating because neither side has the stomach for it. There's just no end game. There's nothing positive from an escalation of broadening the war out into like a world war or anything like that. It just, nobody wants that. Everybody's tired. So,
I mean, when what was it, 2 years ago? You hear about soldiers, Russian soldiers, once they got over to that side, if they were unsuccessful in their campaigns in a particular area, you got Russian soldiers who are basically, either wanting to die or just wanting to basically be like, hey, yo, can I call my mom? Like,
there were a lot of Russian soldiers early on who were surrendering and not fighting. That's the thing; they don't know what they're fighting for.
No,
they didn't view Ukraine as some threat to their country. It's Russia.
Right.
Like, they don't really know why they're fighting. You're right. And when you have a army who doesn't know why they're fighting or doesn't have a strong belief in what they're fighting for, it's even though you might have the bigger army, the lack of motivation and the lack of will to fight, while the other side has all the motivation, all the will to fight because you've invaded their country. Right. And so they're galvanized. They're fighting to the death. And so you have one fighting force that's half-heartedly in it. Like, I don't really know if I want to die for this because I don't even really know what I'm dying for. Right. And the other side is like, I'm going to die for my country because I got to defend my country. And so that's really what we had, is one force was willing to fight and one wasn't, because they don't know what they're fighting for. Even right now, they basically fighting. It's almost like you fight so you don't get killed, right? And by getting killed, I mean by like the general behind you. Like, you fight so you don't get shot in the back.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's what I imagine it's got to be like over there, that they probably have that might be part of the culture, part of the orders coming from the Kremlin. Is like, hey, if you see a dude who doesn't seem like he's got his heart in it, or he looks like he might defect when he gets over the line, over enemy lines, shoot him. I could see that being an order coming from the Kremlin.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Russia's a unique culture, man, especially when it comes to militarily and the way they sacrifice. They'll sacrifice a group of troops to expose the enemy's position. Like, where's the enemy? I don't know. Send that battalion over there. They get shot at, like, oh, there they go. All right. Man. They don't mind losing people. They don't care about it.
Yeah.
Right. They will sacrifice some men to get a strategic advantage. They don't care.
Man. Yeah, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that the U.S. military doesn't think that way.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
I'm very thankful that we don't operate that way. I'm blessed to know a few people who are actually in the military, like yourself. Some of my, a couple of my close friends, and you find out just some of the really honorable things that you have going on in leadership. When you have men in charge of a group of men or women, you have military leaders, period, in charge of people, that they look at those people as humans, as lives that are valuable, and you don't just throw them away.
No. The life, like the no man left behind the brotherhood, the fact of, you got to go back home and you got to tell this person's parents that they're gone. Like, it's real. Like, we care about the people that we work with and serve with and support. And yeah, it's just it's just such a different mindset. Western culture is unique to the world. That's what people need to understand. And and Western culture is built on Christianity. It just is. The every life is valuable. Everybody's made in the image of God. Like, all of these things are just the culture is so unique. We take it for granted because we swim in the waters of it. And we think, oh, this is how human history has always been, and this is how it is everywhere. And it's like, no, it is not. No, it is not. The rest of the world does not operate or think in the ways in which we do. The way we talk about rights and human rights, not the rest of the world does not care.
Right.
China has slavery and sweatshops. You think they care? No. There's some Middle Eastern countries that people love to go visit because they're super nice and welcoming and all that kind of stuff. They've got actual slavery going on. Like, people go there and they're working and they're really in slavery because they have to work off their debt. Yep, future Imago Dei. Yeah, I mean, there's so much just brokenness in the world. Yeah, we have our own here, but people need to just realize the rest of the world is not like us. They don't think like us. They don't react like us. Yeah, it's just you have to understand the world as it is and not think that everybody in the world, that every country in the world is just like you. That's how we got in trouble when we was like, no, we're going to spread democracy over the world. That culture isn't ready for that, right? They need to be under a dictator because that's how they thrive, and that's how peace is maintained. Because the minute you remove that dictator, they're going to start warring with one another, right? So instead of be like, oh, we got to spread democracy, no, leave that dictator in place because he's keeping peace. I don't care if he might not be the nicest, he might do some atrocities, but at the same time, it's not on fire, right? And so being able to sit back and just being okay with that's what we got to learn,
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
I've got a chance to talk to an Indian coworker years ago when we went after Muammar Gaddafi, and we're sitting on the subway, we're sitting on the train together, and he was telling me, he's like, Americans have no idea what they've just done. They have no idea what they've just done. They've destabilized.
Because we want to remove dictators, but sometimes dictators the best thing for it. We can't. This whole idea of we're going to spread democracy, and I know where it came from. I know where it came from. It's this theory called the democratic peace theory, and the theory is that democratic nations don't go to war with each other. So the way you spread peace throughout the world is you spread democracy. That's a simplistic way of viewing it. The reason countries don't go to war with each other, democratic countries, is because they're all Western nations. They're all like-minded culturally. Yes. They have a history, right? It goes beyond just the fact that they're democratic, right? But yeah, we made it way too simplistic, and we thought, you know what? We can just put democracy in the Middle East, and there won't be any more wars. No.
Yeah.
No.
And it's ignorant of history. Like you said, a lot of people think, oh, there are other countries, all these other countries of the world, they think just like us. We think that we're special. We're not special. It is the influence of Christianity in the West that has caused us to have the freedom that we have here. Other countries that are similar to us to have the freedoms that they have there.
Yes.
You can trace Christianity's spread from Israel to other areas like Rome, etc., you can trace that history and start to see once Rome adopted Christianity and started to spread that throughout the Roman Empire, you start to see the values begin to spread.
Especially when it came to the poor.
100%.
Especially when it came to taking care of the poor. And then you talk about the sexual ethic of it, right?
Yep.
Sex, limited the marriage between a man and a woman, all of that type of stuff. It completely changed those cultures. It completely changed Western civilization.
The idea that women are not property.
Yes.
That is a Christian influence on society. And so to think that you're going to go into another place where that influence is not present, the idea that you're going to go and you're going to create another republic like America, you're going to do that. I love the question that my close friend and Kung Fu teacher Jason Coral asked me years ago. He said, so you guys think we're going to go into Iraq and set up democracy? How many Thomas Jeffersons do you have over there? Mm-hmm. How many Benjamin Franklins? How many George Washingtons you got?
Not enough.
Because the moment we leave, that's over.
Yeah.
The moment we leave, they go back to
So this is what happens. This is what happens. You have people from those countries that come over to Europe, they come over to the US, and they come over here for college, right? And they get educated, and they come up in the West, and they're Iraqis or they're Iranians, whatever, and they want to go back and they want to bring democracy to their countries. And we say, you know what? We're going to support you in this. But what we don't realize is that those people don't have the sway in the country. They might be ethnically, Iraqi, but they have no political sway with the people in that country because they've been over in the West, right? And so, it's just a disconnect. It's just a disconnect of what it really takes for a nation to completely transform itself into never seen before.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say that it all comes back to worldview matters, because those people come over here and they're like, I want to take this back to my country. But what has happened is those people have come over here and their worldview has changed. Their worldview has changed, and they want to go, and they don't realize what you have to do when you go back over there. You have to change a whole country's worldview, and that ain't easy. And I would venture to say, as a Christian, you're asking for a spiritual thing to happen. I'm not saying that you shouldn't try. I'm just saying that politically, it is stupid for us to think that a political system is going to change hearts.
Well, you have to change it by educating the people to want it and to change. You can't do it by force.
Correct.
That's the issue.
Correct.
You can't bring a military invasion in and say, we're toppling this government, we're going to put in a democracy, and think that all of those people, because it's the thing, even when they talk to people on the street and they talk about they want democracy and all, and they're happy they voted, they don't understand it. They don't understand it's just presuppositions that come along with understanding what democracy is. And there's a certain way you operate within democracy in terms of diplomacy and politics, and they don't understand that, right? It's like, oh, it didn't go my way. All right, suicide bomber in the market, right? Right? They don't understand what democracy means. They don't have the Federalist Papers. They don't have all the papers and the writings and the thoughts and ideas that shaped our nation. They don't have it. They just know, I get to go vote and we can, vote for our representative. That's all. But they don't have a full understanding of it.
They don't have the theological, the philosophical underpinnings.
Yes, that's the word. Yes,
with that
philosophical underpinnings. Yes,
and so I think that we've got to stop being arrogant to think that just because we have these systems, it's going to work over there. It's not that it can't work, It's that without the underpinnings, it is not going to it's not going to get the same effect that we have over here. That's not going to happen. And so we have to realize that, this is special.
Yeah.
What is over here is special, and it's not blood and soil.
Yes.
It's not blood and soil.
Ooh, I know. You taking shots. You taking shots. I know it.
Shots fired. Shots fired. It's not blood and soil. It is theological and philosophical that is emanating from the theological position. And if you don't have
we hold these truths to be self-evident.
Self-evident, right?
Yes.
Self-evident. Yeah. So that's in my opinion, that's self-evident. Romans 1. Go read it. Go read it.
Yep. But like I said, those underpinnings and that how did they get to that point where they realized that these truths were self-evident, that all men are created by their creator? Like, how did they get to that? There was philosophical and theological belief behind that. You just can't go and drop that somewhere else where we are today, call it democracy, and they don't have those underpinnings to it. So
right. And I would encourage everybody to go back and to watch the episode that we did with Joe Miller on Worldview. Because it will kind of fill in some of the gaps in what we're talking about now, about how critical worldview is to the development of all the ideas that make America and any other Western country far more free than most countries have been in human history, and than other countries are now.
Yeah, man. So I'm not gonna bring up the article for the last thing. Mike Tyson got offered $700 million to fight Jake Paul for real. So, yeah. So, who was it? It was one of those like rich, like Saudi princes or whatever, like somebody like that is willing to pay $700 million to Tyson if he wins the fight. So basically, if Tyson fights for real, he said, if he wins the fight, he will give him $700 million.
Well, it's a lot better than 20. Let's see what happens.
I like that incentive because this guy believes Tyson didn't fight for real. I believe Tyson did. He just old, but that's just me.
I think it's actually a mixture of both. I think it's a mixture of both. I think that Tyson didn't really go as hard as he could have. I actually think it's 75%.
You think he pulled his punches?
Yes, I do. I do think he pulled his punches. I think that there were a couple opportunities that he had where, it was clear he could have had a shot at Jake, and he didn't take it, and felt like it was a little bit weird. And then, there were multiple instances where Jake could have knocked him out where he didn't. So that all feeds into people being like, this wasn't a real fight. I'm not trying to malign anybody's character. I'm just saying that, as somebody who has actually like gone and tried to learn how to fight, you look at certain parts of the fight and you're like, why didn't he take him out right there? He had him cold right there. Why didn't he take him out? Or or that was an opening and he was poised to take it. And it's like, and then all of a sudden he just kind of like shrank back. It's like he lunged forward and then I'm like, wait a what? Huh?
Yeah. It's almost like he was playing like he was fighting, but he wasn't really fighting because he wouldn't ever take the shot.
Yeah, it was weird,
he was
man.
Going through the motions.
So I think I will say when that fight, when Mike Tyson walked out, I said, he got that old man tired look in his eyes. I saw the look in his eyes.
He did.
And I was like, oh man, he's like, you could just feel like, he's like, man, I feel it in my knee. I can feel it's going to rain tomorrow. I feel it in my knee. Let me come out here and make this 20 mil and get this dang thing over with. He's walking out here like, why they so loud? I'm too old for this ish.
Get you over there.
That's the look he had in his eyes, man.
Yep. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. I figured you would find that interesting.
Well,
but man, this was a good discussion tonight. We hit a lot of topics, and we were off for a week, for 2 weeks, so we had to catch up on everything that was going on. And so, yeah, man, tonight was good.
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure, man. Really appreciate also the knowledge that you dropped on us on foreign affairs.
Yeah. Hey, man, I love that stuff. The chat, man, shout out to you guys. Y'all were on it. We appreciate y'all and y'all being engaged. Spread the word, share it with your friends, share it on Facebook, Twitter, wherever you hang out. And let everybody know about us. But until next time, I think next week we'll be back to Fridays. So, Lord willing, we'll see you guys next time. Stay informed.
Stay informed, folks.